Good morning. Happy Thursday. Today, we are going to talk about difficult markets, navigating difficult markets, things that feel difficult in the market right now, because I'm getting a lot of very similar things that are coming up. I'm having a lot of very similar conversations kind of over and over and over again. And yes, are we in currently like the most normal, perfect, tickety boo market right now? No. And that's okay. What I like to think sometimes when I think back on like different like periods of time when markets have felt hard, if you've been in the business for a long time, then you've definitely navigated more difficult markets over the years. But I think that there's a big differentiator in terms of the people who survive a difficult market and then the people who really kill it in a difficult market. So I want to talk about that. And there are going to be things today that are going to feel confronting. So I'm just going to warn you before we get started. If you are not in a place today where you feel like you can kind of like handle some personal responsibility and like looking at yourself and you're feeling a little bit like things are a lot right now, I highly suggest that you leave. And it's okay. I will not be offended if you go. I'm obviously recording this, and I will send it to you later when you feel like you are in a better headspace. Because I think that is, I think it's important because I am going to be a little bit more direct. Not that I'm not always direct, but I'm going to be direct and I may not sugarcoat things the way that I normally do, just because I think that sometimes we need to hear like the bare bones of reality and like truly looks like. So I think that right now, the biggest thing that people are struggling with is that they haven't seen a market like this before. And that is totally legit. I think a lot of the people who are in this room at the moment, some of you have been in the industry for 30, 40 years. So you have seen ups and downs of markets. You have seen interest rates at this rate before. I am by no means going to belittle anybody the way that so many agents do on social media and say, in 1955, the interest rates were, because the reality is that when we look at what interest rates are, along with the cost of real estate today and average incomes, we are not talking apples and apples. So the people out there who are complaining about interest rates, they are making legitimate complaints, right? And I think that it actually does a disservice to a lot of people to say, oh, but the interest rates, in 1955, I'm making this up, were, 1 million percent, or like, that they were 10% at this date, or our parents paid 9%. Yeah, but my parents also bought a really, really beautiful 3.5, 4 bedroom with a pool and in like a beautiful neighborhood with like kids running around on the street, 2-car garage for like $380,000, right? Like when you truly think about when interest rates were higher, what the property values were, we're not talking about the same things. So is the market more difficult for people right now? Yes. And I am not going to be one of those people who says like, oh no, like everything's perfect. No, it's different. And for a lot of people, it is more difficult and their purchasing power is lower. But are there still people that have the ability to buy and sell real estate? Absolutely. So the real problem with a lot, and this is going to be confronting for a lot of people, the real problem that most people in real estate are having right now is a business generation problem. It's a standing out in the marketplace problem. Because everyone's saying, oh, like there's not a lot of activity, like there's not as many people buying. 74% of agents in the United States did 0 deals in 2024. So if you take 74% of the agent population and you exclude them, there's actually probably the same amount of competition right now than there was before, if we actually truly look at numbers. And Canada is not that much different. The fact that so many people renewed their license is absolutely shocking to me based on the numbers that we're seeing, right? But there is and there are always opportunities in these markets. And do you remember when we first started and at the beginning of COVID and we thought that literally the sky was falling and that nobody was going to do any deals because everything like paused for like a month? Well, that's not what we're in right now, right? We're not in a like calm before the storm. There is an element of for a while this could be the reality, right? And so yeah. So Tom's saying that's still a bucket load. I thought he wrote buttload, and I was going to be like proud of Tom for like, but he said bucket load. Bucket load of business still out there to be done. Exactly. So let's say we'll round up and we'll say 25% of agents are doing deals. Now, there's also a huge percentage of those agents that are also only doing one deal. Right. So the reality is if we're looking at the number of agents who are doing a decent business, we're actually looking at around 2.5%. So 2.5% of agents that are licensed are actually producing. The market's not that bad if you actually think about it that way. So when we look at those numbers and we exclude all of the people who are genuinely not doing any business, then we have the opportunity to refocus on what the actual problem is. And the problem is your ability to generate business. Repeat and referral business, when the market has shifted, is not as easy to cultivate. So if 100% of your business is based on repeat and referral, you are going to struggle right now. And if you're currently struggling right now, then that might be the issue. The people who I'm seeing that are really, really killing it, I had a message yesterday from Jennifer, who went through our program, I think like a year and a half ago, 2 years ago. Um, her business is growing. She's doing several $100,000 a year. And a big chunk of that is coming from Listings Lab stuff. Now, I'm not saying the Listings Lab is the answer to all of your problems. What I am wanting you to think about is the marketing and the ability for you to consistently and predictably bring in business, right? If that's not something that's happening right now, there's maybe three main issues that needs to be addressed. And whether you address that with us or you address that in your own way and with your own tools, it's fine. Number one is your messaging is off. If your messaging isn't really, really resonating and isn't bringing people to you on a regular basis, that is an opportunity that fixing that one thing alone could completely shift your business. Number two is you haven't nurtured enough people over the last 3 to 6 months, meaning that you haven't brought enough people into your world to nurture those people well and convert those people into active business. So those two things alone can drastically impact how you're feeling about the market right now. And so when we're talking about, because the reality is that we can look at all the data and we can look at all the numbers, but the way that we are interacting with the market will determine pretty much anything or everything, right? If you believe the market is really, really hard, the market is going to be really, really hard. And if you believe that the market right now is providing opportunity because so many agents are pooping the bed, then you are going to have a much easier time at grabbing onto and working on the things that you know are going to get you more business. So the way that you actually approach this is very interesting. I have heard, even in my world, right? We're hearing a lot, and I've had to have conversations as well with our team and our salespeople, and about the fact that they're like, yeah, but there's so many real estate coaching businesses out there that are firing and that are downsizing. I'm like, great, that makes more space for us, right? And so if you, especially if you have a team, if you can't think about it that way, How can you expect anyone else on your team or in your brokerage or the people around you to think about it in a positive way? When I work the numbers and I look at that 2.5% or less, if you're actually looking at anybody who's doing more than 10 deals a year, it's actually less than that. That leaves a lot on the table. But what I expect in my prediction for the next 2 to 3 years is that there are going to be names that you haven't heard of before. There are going to be agents that come out of nowhere that you're like, wow, I've never heard of this person before, but all of a sudden I'm losing listings to them. And all of a sudden I'm seeing their signs all over the place. And they've really infiltrated this area and I've never heard their name before. I don't know where they've come from. Well, the reality is they came from the internet because there is no other place that you can grow faster, get more mind share or market share faster than online. I did it myself. I went from 150,000 a year to six figures in 6 months. Oh, sorry, to seven figures in 6 months. And all that was really effective marketing and like pounding out the marketing for 6 months, right? And so a lot of this really just comes down to what are you focused on? How are you going about things? And this kind of ties into what we talked about last week. We talked last week about how the average age of the successful agents in each marketplace is actually starting to drop. And the two reasons behind that were number one, we've started to see some legacy turnover. So like people who have built big businesses, built them over 40 years, are retiring and passing their businesses down. And then the other set of people are the people who have kind of again come out of nowhere that are really leveraging digital marketing and that aren't falling into the real estate stuff. They're not falling into the cliched real estate stuff and being told that they have to build a business in one particular way. They're innovating, they're looking at things outside of the box, they're looking at other industries, and they're pulling things in from other industries that are working from a digital standpoint. They're becoming marketers. They're not just realtors who post on social media. So there's a lot of people too that I'm talking to right now that feel like they're kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place. And I can only reflect on the conversations that we're having. But I'm having a lot of conversations with people who are like, I know that I need to do something, but I have no money. I know that I need to make adjustments and changes in my business, but everything feels expensive right now. And I get it. I 100% get it. And that it's funny. I actually wrote something down the other day and it made me cry. And this may not be emotional for you, but it was really emotional for me. And what I wrote down, I just opened my note section. It says the hardest thing about coaching is when you can't afford it or when you feel like you can't afford it is actually when you need it the most. And that sucks. And it made that, I mean, that's why I launched that $47 product the other day because I was just like, I feel like I want to do things for people, but I also know that, and I have so much experience with this, that if it's not painful, a little bit painful, financially, people don't do it. And I'm kind of the same way as well, right? How many like $99, $97, $47 things have I bought over the years that are like on my computer and I've never opened them? I'm like, oh, that looks cool. Yeah, I could probably reference that. Maybe I'll get a nugget out of it. And I've never opened it because it was $47. Um, but at the same time, too, it's where I'm struggling right now. It's what hurts for me right now is that the people that need what we have the most are the people who right now feel like it's out of reach. So with that being said, I'm just kind of sharing like what some of the thoughts have been recently. I've talked to my team about it quite a bit too. But I there's two ways of thinking about this. What I don't want to do is have you start doing something out of fear. and start saying, "Oh my gosh, someone else is going to come and take all my business, and if I don't do the digital marketing thing, like I'm gonna, the world is going to blow up." And that's not what I'm trying to do. What I am trying to do is to show you that right now there actually is possibly more opportunity than there has been before. In a regular balanced market, or even in the market that we had in 2021, yes, the type of business that was coming in was easier, meaning that the repeat and referral business was still very, very strong and rolling, and the number of overall transactions was much higher. But if you actually break down the numbers in terms of production and how many agents were actually producing, there's more opportunity now than there was then. And so the reality is just that their the opportunity that exists though is different opportunity. We need to get in front of new people. We need to get in front of the people that, not just the people who have been like circulating in your orbit for the last 5 years. And there is a little bit of the fear factor of, if we don't put enough people in the nurture bucket in the next three, like now, it's going to get worse in the next 3 to 6 months. So your primary focus right now needs to shake the low-hanging fruit out of the tree and start putting people in that into nurture campaigns, into email campaigns, into retargeting campaigns, into all of those areas, so that 3 to 6 months from now, you're growing instead of shrinking. Um, yeah, and Maria, totally, right? And I think that what I've been seeing, even really, really successful people, even in my area, I'm starting to see people pull back. People are firing team, people are contracting, people are reducing ad budgets, and they're just kind of like hibernating to weather a storm. It's during those opportunities that we haven't reduced our ad spend. In fact, one of the things that we're working on the most is making our ads even more interesting, even more fun, even more like poignant, because it's those people I truly believe that are going to really, really kill it in the next little while and grab up market share. So the way that I would love for you to think about this is, and if you kind of do one exercise today, whether you're driving, whether you have the opportunity to sit down and like write something out, um, what do you want to do with that opportunity? How can you allocate more time, energy, money to solving the problem now instead of ignoring it? Because I think there's a lot of people who are ignoring it. I think there's a lot of people who are like head in the sand. It's going to be okay. It always works out. I've even had conversations with people who are like, everything is always happening for me. I'm like, uh-huh, but you can't do nothing. Right? The everything that's always happening for me means that when trouble comes, you learn and grow from it. Not that you do nothing and then become a victim to what's going on. And I think that there's a lot of victimhood right now. There's a lot of agents who, whether they intend to or not, feel victimized by the market. They feel like things are so hard. But the question that I would ask you is, in the last 6 months to a year, have you done everything that you possibly could to not be in the situation that feels hard? And I think for most people, the answer is no. So then the next question becomes, are you going to make that decision again today? Or are you going to do something different? And again, this is not me trying to sell you anything. This is me trying to say, are you spending your time and energy and money on the right things? Right? And I think that Deirdre, my other question for you, because she just said, do you recommend creating engaging online advertising even if you aren't getting organic leads, or do you do both? They work together. It's kind of like a compounding machine. So they do work together. And we have lots of people who are running paid traffic and getting, 5 times the amount of business that they're getting from paid traffic than they are from organic. But my question for you would always be, are you expanding your audience or are you just posting? Are you actively every day working on getting in front of new people? Are you going out there and trying to create like going after collaborative communities for your audience to grow? Because if you're posting and you're just posting to the same people all the time, that's going to be really difficult. It's going to be really difficult for you to generate a whole bunch of business and a whole bunch, like, if the audience isn't I would almost say turning over, right? If you looked at the back of my analytics in terms of my audience growth, I think you'd be really interested. It would be really interesting to people because every month I do grow. I do grow every month on Instagram, but I also shrink quite a bit. So let's say I get 1,000 new followers a month on Instagram. I lose like 400. And you don't see that kind of role when you have a smaller following. But like 400, sometimes more people a month decide that they don't want to hear from me anymore. And that's okay because that role means that I'm losing people that I don't want and I'm gaining new people that then I can nurture. And so if your audience isn't doing any of that role, what you'll find is that it can become stale. Now, why does my audience roll? Well, the growth comes from the fact that I run a lot of paid traffic, a lot. For those of you who don't know, like I spent $1 million on Facebook ads last year. And so some of it comes from that. Some of it comes from PR. Some of it comes from recommendations. And some of it just comes from like I get shown to people. I show up on people's For You pages and stuff. Um, but you have to be replenishing your audience. You either have to do it manually or you have to do it through paid traffic. Um, I know that this is going to bring up questions. And I know that these are actually more personal questions than one of my weekly trainings would normally bring up because everyone's personal relationship right now with the market is going to be a little bit different. The things that they're struggling with. And there's people here that are listening to me right now that are in their head saying my market is different. My market is harder. My market is smaller. Nothing is moving in my market. I know that that's happening, and that's not helping you. If you get to a point where you can take 100% responsibility for the health and the well-being of your business, you will succeed. But if you have reasons in the back of your head as to why the world is working against you, the best thing that you could possibly do is get a job. And I know that that's really harsh, but not everyone who gets into real estate is meant to be an entrepreneur. I've told people recently, go join a team because your head is just like in such a bad place when it comes to how you are going to run and grow your business that you are not running your business right now and you are not going to grow your business. And I'm worried about your financial situation in the next little while. So there's going to be two camps of agents. I always use that. I always say there's going to be two camps of agents, but there always is, right? There's going to be those agents who actually, in this case, I'm deviating from my norm. I think there's going to be three. There's going to be the agents who really, really suffer through this market. There's going to be the agents who hold on. They hold on with everything they've got. They manage to get through it, but it's hard, it's ugly. They're not going to like the business in a couple of years. And then there's going to be the people who are like who just like absolutely like I'm going to be very Canadian right now, just like have that big hockey stick moment. And a lot of that is just going to come from super creativity and going all in on the things that are actually going to grow their business, um, which are always going to be client generation. Notice I didn't say lead generation, client generation. Any old person can generate a bunch of cold internet leads. That's not what I'm talking about. Client generation, being able to take somebody and bring them in and make them make them a client, make them choose you. And um, systems, making sure that you actually have what it takes to serve those clients in a highly unique, highly different, unique and different are the same word, but also memorable way. So I'm just going to bring up one image that I show you guys all the time because I think it is something that I need you guys to remember over and over and over again. And I'm just going to talk you through it again one more time. What do I mean by unique service to a client? I mean that you cannot have a service package that looks like everyone else's because then you're playing a popularity contest. If you don't provide something to your listings or to your ideal clients or um, to your niche that is drastically different and memorable, then again, you are also going to find that your business dwindles and that you are, sorry, I just closed my camera by accident, and that you aren't memorable. Your repeat and referral business is going to start to suffer because people are innovating now, and you'll find it very, very difficult to market online. Okay. I drew a really ugly version of this for Jess last week, but Jessica, here's like the actual design version of what I drew in a notebook for you. Um, okay, so any market is going to be in and around these numbers. Are these going to be exact every time? No. But you have 20% of people who are problem aware, 17% of people who are information gathering mode, and 3% of the market who is actually doing something now. Okay. So you guys have all you've all seen this before, or a lot of you have seen this before. So we're ignoring these people. The 60% of people who are not problem aware and are, we're not actively advertising towards those people right now. Do we want those people in our audience for down the road? Absolutely. No problem. Right? But we have to then create personal content in order to keep those people engaged so we don't get as much audience churn. But this is your pipeline. This 37% right here, these are the people that if you haven't been collecting these people in the last 3 to 6 months, you're not going to have as many people up here. And if you are one of those agents who is constantly just advertising to these people, call me for all of your real estate needs. I can help you buy, sell, rent, and invest. If you're looking to buy or sell, that kind of messaging only speaks to these people. These people already have agents. These people have a cousin or a sister or someone who's in real estate. It's too late. So when I said in the last 3 to 6 months, have you been filling your pipeline? Have you been making sure that you have enough people in that bucket that you're nurturing? These are the people I'm talking about, which is why the psychology is so important. Jennifer, I want to address this too, because the creative piece to being truly different. Sometimes it's just taking off the real estate hat. Everyone does the same thing, and everyone's been doing the same thing for so long that everyone looks the same, and everyone's services look exactly the same. Instead of thinking of your service package as prep, stage, declutter, photos, list, because that's how everyone else is thinking about it. How can you actually look at a service package and say, how do I even present this differently? How do I go about this in a way that feels different. So let's say that your niche, I'm just going to show you Chase's example. Let's say that your niche is young professionals wanting to build wealth through real estate. Execution, all of that stuff that you just spread out over 4 steps is in 1 step, because that's not all he's doing. But this market maximization strategy, which I'm not going to share with you because it's proprietary IP for him that we built. This in and of itself is enough of a differentiator, and it's part of his continuity for his services. Okay, I have less than 5% battery, so I need to wrap this up, and my power's out. So a lot of this comes down to the staging, the photos, the inspections, the prep, the pricing strategy, all of this he has in 1 step, because that's actually just the easy stuff. Where he's creating value is what do these people actually need? What are their end goals? And what is it that you need to do and provide for them to make this an absolute no-brainer? See, Naomi, I still think you're thinking like a realtor. What if you weren't in real estate? What if you'd never met a real estate agent? What if you hadn't been at your brokerage? What if you've never heard a bunch of agents talk about doing the same thing for the last however many years? What would you want? That's where innovation happens. Innovation happens when people take off the real estate hat and they put their butts in their client's seat. And they say, in 2025, what do I want? What do I want that is different from everyone else, that no one else is doing because no one else has thought about it? What do my clients want? What is their goal? Have you done enough interviews? Because the reality is that I remember when Ara did his market research interviews for the first time in like 2019, 2018. And he came back to me and he was like, I had no idea that my upsizing families were more worried about building wealth through real estate and their retirement planning and making good decisions than they were about whether or not they got 3 bathrooms. I had it all wrong. And so a lot of the time we're making it up and then we don't know why it's not working, because we're assuming we know more than we actually know, which is why I brought this topic up, this whole topic of the market, because I've had enough conversations in the last three weeks to a month about the market, because the market is being blamed for everything. I really want to join your program, but I have no money because of the market. I'm like, no, you have no money because you haven't done the right things in order to make sure that you have money, and your mindset is messed up. It has nothing to do with the market, because I'm also having calls with other people in your market who are killing it and want to keep growing. So, and I've said this from stage a million times, but the decisions that you make today are going to last for years. And not making a decision is still a decision. So I know that I always say this, but I really do want to open my email, and I want you to send me emails, and I want to talk through this with you. If you are in a specific, but just be aware, I'm feisty right now. So if you don't want the cold, hard truth and you can't handle harshness right now, don't email me, because I don't have a filter at the moment. I've been having too many of these conversations to have a filter right now. I will tell you how it is, but if you are struggling with this at all and not knowing what to do and not knowing if you're the problem, send me an email. So I'm going to drop my email here. Literally, my computer's about to die. Um, but please do send me an email, and I'm happy to talk through whatever it is that's going on for you in particular. And sometimes you just have to get creative and figure it out. But sometimes it's also hard when you're in victim mode to be able to figure it out. If you are in any of my programs, go back and watch the drama triangle training, please. And don't think about it in terms of being in the drama triangle with someone else. Think about it in terms of being in the drama triangle with the market. Okay? Cool, guys. Before my computer dies, I hope you have a wonderful day and a wonderful weekend, and I'll see you next week. Bye, guys.